By the year 2035, Africa will be home to over 1.5 billion people, accounting for nearly 15% of the world's total population, with the continent's urban population projected to triple in the next 40 years. This rapid growth is not just a demographic shift, but a seismic economic and geopolitical one, with far-reaching implications for the rest of the world. As the global economy becomes increasingly interconnected, the fate of Africa will be inextricably linked to our own, with the continent's success or failure set to have a direct impact on global trade, security, and stability. The consequences of Africa's rise are already being felt, from the millions of young Africans entering the workforce every year, to the surge in foreign investment pouring into the continent, with China alone investing over $40 billion in African infrastructure projects in the last decade. However, this growth also brings significant challenges, including the threat of climate change, with African countries already experiencing devastating droughts, heat waves, and famines, such as the 2011 Somali famine that killed over 250,000 people. Moreover, the rise of African economies will also mean increased competition for resources, jobs, and markets, with the potential to disrupt global supply chains and exacerbate existing social and economic inequalities. Africa's importance over the next 50 years cannot be overstated, as the continent is poised to become a major driver of global economic growth, with the International Monetary Fund predicting that Africa's GDP will grow from $2.3 trillion in 2020 to over $5.5 trillion by 2030. This growth will be driven by a combination of factors, including the increasing demand for African natural resources, such as oil, gas, and minerals, as well as the rapid expansion of African consumer markets, with the continent's middle class projected to grow from 355 million in 2010 to over 1 billion by 2060. Furthermore, Africa is also home to some of the world's most innovative and dynamic economies, with countries such as Rwanda, Kenya, and Ghana leading the way in terms of technological innovation, entrepreneurship, and good governance. The significance of Africa's rise extends far beyond the continent itself, with implications for global geopolitics, trade, and security. As Africa's economies grow, they will become increasingly important players in global trade, with the potential to reshape the global economic landscape and challenge the dominance of traditional economic powers. Moreover, the rise of Africa will also have significant implications for global security, as the continent becomes a key battleground in the struggle against terrorism, extremism, and other forms of instability. The United States, China, and other major powers are already jostling for influence in Africa, with the U.S. investing over $8 billion in African security initiatives in the last decade, while China has established a major military base in Djibouti. However, despite the many opportunities presented by Africa's rise, the continent also faces significant challenges, including poverty, inequality, and poor governance. Many African countries still struggle with basic infrastructure, such as roads, electricity, and healthcare, while others are hampered by corrupt and ineffective institutions. Moreover, the continent is also vulnerable to external shocks, such as changes in global commodity prices, which can have a devastating impact on African economies. To address these challenges, African leaders, international organizations, and foreign investors will need to work together to build more resilient and sustainable economies, with a focus on diversification, innovation, and human development. One of the key drivers of Africa's growth will be its rapidly expanding youth population, with over 60% of Africans under the age of 25. This demographic dividend presents a major opportunity for African economies, as a large and growing workforce can drive innovation, entrepreneurship, and economic growth. However, it also poses significant challenges, as African countries will need to create millions of new jobs every year to absorb the growing number of young people entering the workforce. To address this challenge, African governments and international organizations are investing in programs to promote entrepreneurship, vocational training, and education, with a focus on developing the skills and knowledge needed to drive innovation and economic growth. The rise of Africa will also have significant implications for global culture, as African music, art, and literature become increasingly influential around the world. From the Afrobeat sounds of Nigeria to the vibrant art scene of South Africa, African culture is already making a major impact on the global creative landscape. Moreover, African filmmakers, writers, and artists are also gaining international recognition, with films such as Black Panther and Timbuktu, showcasing the richness and diversity of African culture. As Africa's economies grow, we can expect to see even more African creatives taking center stage, sharing their unique perspectives and talents with the world. In conclusion, the importance of Africa over the next 50 years cannot be overstated, as the continent is poised to become a major driver of global economic growth, innovation, and cultural exchange. As Africa's economies grow, they will present significant opportunities for investment, trade, and cooperation. But they will also pose challenges, including the need to address poverty, inequality, and poor governance. By understanding the complexities and nuances of Africa's rise, we can work together to build a more prosperous, sustainable, and equitable future for all. The next 50 years will be shaped by Africa's growth, and it's time for us to take notice. Africa's success is not just a moral imperative, but a matter of global self-interest. The future of our world will be written in Africa.